What is up, everybody? This is Alex from IHE TV here, and I'm talking about Andor. I just finished season 2. This will be full spoilers, so just go watch it. Even if you're sick of Star Wars, I would recommend this. I don't know if I go quite as far as to say if you've never even cared about Star Wars, this might win you over, but this is just great television, full stop, that I would recommend. It's almost too good to be true in more ways than one, because Star Wars, am I right? It almost feels like talking about He Who Shall Not Be Named, the franchise of Star Wars. It's so tired and milked by the Disney era. But this might be the last dash of hope we see from this franchise, and honestly, it enriches the original trilogy so much and is such a good companion piece that I could see myself revisiting this series regularly, once every couple of years or something. I'll happily watch through this again. This was absolutely fantastic. I loved season 1, and I love this kind of structure that it falls into, of having these 3 episode arcs, for me peaking around the IHE, which is just a fantastic heist sequence that you don't even realize is setting up all these characters and ideas that are going to be paid off in season 2 in certain ways through these like communication devices and speeches that certain characters, like this gentleman here, he's a good British actor. It just kind of compounds on itself with each one of these arcs in a way in season 2 that's more impressive than season 1, where it almost has to rebuild momentum each 3 episodes, which it still has to do in the second season to some degree. But it just feels like the second season is feeding into itself more, where it's like, this heist arc doesn't have that much to do with this prison arc, well, even though that's it does in ways, but they're not directly the result of one another in the same way. Season 2 is returning to same locations, showing the progress. There are significant time jumps that the first season didn't do. Each one of these 3 episodes has a year time gap, so you really feel like an escalation of things. You feel like they are running out of time and that they are a scrabbly rebellion that's trying to figure things out. So how do you want to start here? Let's just go like episode by episode, I guess, arc by arc. Because at first, and you can kind of see reflected in these ratings, it's like, right, how are you going to do season 1 again? Like that must have been a fluke, right? And there's a lot of setup in these first 2 episodes, and it just kind of comes together in this kind of tragic character stuff with Andor kind of, you get stuck on Yavin, which is like a reveal, and he steals like a TIE fighter, and all these various characters separated at this point, wind up coalescing by the end of episode 3. I've got the names up here because like keeping track of Star Wars characters is just, it's impossible. I can't do it with real life people I actually know, let alone Tay Colmer or Davos Skulden or whatever. But this first arc from season 2 is maybe the weakest one, although there isn't anything I'd really take out. I don't think there's a bad episode of this entire show, and it's I'm kind of glad that it is so condensed and they didn't like catch on that they were onto a good thing and feel the need to stretch this out to 6 seasons and kind of lose what was cool about it. I'm glad that there's not even an opportunity now with how like clean it ends to ruin it. So it's safe and sound. Let's go character by character, actually. That's kind of, and we'll just see where this goes. There's like no structure to this. I've only got like really loose notes, and I just finished the show, so I'm trying to figure out my thoughts here. But starting with Andor, actually, as a character, he's an amazing perspective character where he's not even the best character. In fact, he's one of the weaker characters in the show, but he's an amazing perspective to see through. It's not like he doesn't get arcs, and his relationship with Bix is bittersweet and really messed up, actually, at certain points, and how dark it gets. But I love how he's more of like he's almost like a cowboy, like a Clint Eastwood type character, where he's a way to get things out of other characters around him. He does go undercover. He is part of heists. He is being sent in these special missions for the rebellion, and he's just a cool, I keep saying it, but perspective character. I just really like that angle that they take with him. But it's more the characters you just would least expect to be as interesting and fleshed out as they are. Like, who would have thought Mon Mothma one of the better characters in all of Star Wars now. And the same with this in Season 2, especially this Clea character. Just like comes out of nowhere and kind of steals the show, especially in that last arc. It's almost like it becomes about her. And this just ongoing theme of rebellion and the unsung heroes and the way that people kind of pass the baton and the need of the sacrifice in order to do that and get to where we eventually see where it winds up going through the original trilogy. But my favorite characters are probably Luthen, Cyril, and probably Luthen and Cyril. And I love this Daedra character as well. I love how it shows different arms of rebellion. It shows the infighting. You got like Saw Gerrera, who's more like a radical, who you see these little hints of in Rogue One. And that's actually one of the more unfortunate things, is that I just have so many issues with Rogue One, and the way it kind of leads into Rogue One is almost disappointing to me, because it's better than Rogue One. It's so much better written and structured and plotted than that film, that it's just not on the same level. It's kind of a downer, but the speeches, the dialogue that Tony Gilroy, his brother, and the writer's room came up with are just so good. This is like great stuff as far as these like lines they're whipping out, the speeches they're saying. That scene where Saw Gerrera and where is he? I found him on IMDb. Where the actual fuck is he? How am I supposed to remember his goddamn name? Oh my god. He's the guy who has like millions of girlfriends. He's like a player. Why is he not here? He's one of the main characters. Here he is, this dude. Muhammad Bayir. What's the character called there? Wilman Pack. Yeah. Yeah, he's an unexpected cool character as well. I love his little, when he's captured by radicals who won't let him leave, and that whole little mini excursion they go on. Thematically, just a really strong through line. Yeah, I absolutely love, in that last arc, that confrontation between Luthen and Daedra, where he whips out that line where she's saying about how he disgusts her, and he just whips back that there's a whole rebellion out there waiting to disgust you. There's so many lines like that. That was the only like line I noted down throughout the series, but there's probably a handful every episode of lines like as cool as that. And side note, I do find it kind of ironic and interesting that the show is kind of a microcosm of the rebellion itself. You know, it's like ignored, unsuspected, and left to its devices to some degree, bubbling in the background while it builds in strength and becomes too powerful to stop. Unlike every other Star Wars product that has been released around it, that is all flashy and in your face and doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Like, even going back to stuff like Mandalorian, which it was fun or whatever when it was coming out, and it was kind of exciting, I guess, at the time to get like wow, it's a Star Wars TV show. But yeah, it really doesn't hold up to scrutiny. A lot of it looks really bad, whereas this is, I don't know, it's like a polished diamond. It's not just the writing and the plotting and the scene structure that is solid. It is these performances, these sets, and the direction is really strong, and the way they use color and light, and the way it will just hyper-focus on something small within a big, huge, messy war, and kind of making you understand how complex this whole thing is, and how the bureaucracy weighs everything down, and how there's so many different ways to rebel or defy a fascist dictatorship, which is kind of the ultimate point of the show. How to defy a fascist dictatorship, how many different ways you can go about doing that, and also kind of how inefficient and cannibalistic it is of itself, and how ultimately inefficient it is. I love the way that this Major Partagaz character, who some might recognize from, I think it was in Game of Thrones, how he comes to the realization that the Empire they're fucked, and he basically kills himself. He commits suicide in the building in Coruscant. And just looking at all these different characters here, and the idea of unsung heroes that will kind of do their part, or are lied to, or defy, or come to realizations before it's too late, like the way that brutal last line that Andor says to Cyril, like, who are you? It's like Mad Men vibes. And Sewell's relationship with his mother, and the way they communicate propaganda, and the way she believes that these horrible terrorists have basically killed her son, and making you feel sympathy for this she's quite an overbearing, nasty woman before that point, and it just shows that there is a real, especially in season 2, this focus on communication. There's one of the episodes has an intro as the logo's coming up. I love that theme song that they use each episode too, composed by the dude who did the Succession score as well. It's like just top tier stuff in here, so much talent. But yeah, this focus on communication and tapping into each other and laying these traps and putting bugs in people's offices and people being undercover and who's working for who and how like paranoid everyone is. Luthen is just so paranoid and doesn't trust anyone for good reason. The tensions are so high and the stakes are so high, and this kind of overarching just intensity and tragedy, which the last episode particularly leads into, with the fact we know Andor dies, obviously, at the end of Rogue One, as well as this guy, the Scottish dude, Rhys Scott Melshi, who's another cool kind of reincorporation of some of the characters. I'm pretty sure he escapes from the prison with Kino Loy, which is another great arc from season 1. The way he comes back and he's like, I think that's my blaster, and I'm pretty sure he's in Rogue One proper too. The way it weaves into it is extremely good. And yeah, I just love that focus on the obvious stuff the movies never really have a chance to indulge in the same way, because it is so big. It's a bit more poppy. The whole Force angle and the Jedi stuff is like such a focus for obvious reasons. That's the point of the original trilogy. It's more of like the fantasy stuff it leans into. That's how kind of Luke and that lot are able to win, largely, is with the help of the Force and everything. And I love how restrained they are with that. I was scared that they were going to be like, oh, and there's an R2-D2 and C-3PO cameo, like what Rogue One did, basically, where it's like, oh, look, it's the guy from episode 4, like just showing up for no reason to make the galaxy feel small. It never feels small. It never feels the need to do that. But the fact it does indulge in the stuff that is a part of war, code breakers, secret communication, undercover spies, just this whole espionage stuff. That, yeah, of course, that would be a part of war. I love seeing the way it was depicted and the endless bureaucracy of it. Some of the best scenes are just conversations and where they choose to begin and end it. And this whole stuff, the whole arc with Mon Mothma and marrying off her daughter for political reasons. And I love the way they juxtapose and edit that dancing scene over the action that's going on from different angles. And it's quite complicated the way it's put together and super ambitious. Which is really funny how, just aside, that whole drama about Star Wars theory, he can't hack this show and refuses to cover it, even though it's the best thing this franchise has seen in decades. And there's so much you could break down and theorize about and talk about, and every single one of these characters you could do essays on, and it's really? You're throwing that to the side just because the idea of essay in Star Wars, and that whole big scene, disturbed you? You're fine with the children dying and the literal genocide and all of that. That's fine. But the idea of that in a war scenario and these intense fascist power dynamics is absurd. Okay, whatever. He's got enough heat. But that was one thing I did love about season 2 was, I kind of mentioned it already, but the reincorporation of certain locations. Whereas season 1 kind of jumped around a bit more, but did help establish some of them. I loved how the first arc showed early Yavin, and then you're revisiting it with these time jumps, and it's kind of a bit more developed. You're seeing some of that, as I said, infighting. You're going back to Gorman again and again, and there's this kind of whole mystery around that. Well, as the audience, what is going on there, but the characters don't, and they're just trying to desperately figure out what is going on here. And the whole idea that I love that they chose to make the Gormans French. I love that detail. That very revolutionary kind of angle they took that, building up to the slow build up to the Gorman massacre in episode 8. A incredible episode, maybe the best episode in the show. Just payoff after payoff after payoff. I loved how at first Andor is sent to Gorman, and he's like, "This is a terrible idea. These revolutionaries, they got the right idea, but they're too disorganized. We can't trust them. They are all over the place." And the fact he doesn't want to do it and all this, it's damn, so much texture to all this, and the way it comes together in the in the Gorman Massacre and the way they finish Cyril's arc. Just brutal stuff. And like, I just like the Empire being efficient and scary. Because obviously in the original trilogy, that's like the ongoing meme. It's like, oh, they can't hit anything. They just always lose every battle and conflict they're in, which is fine in the microcosms of those movies. But I love the fact that this kind of, along with Empire, makes them feel like, wow, there actually are, when they do get their ducks in a row, they can be a scary force. And characters like Deidre Miro, who I love the way she gets put up in the prison, one of those prison complexes that Andor escaped from in season 1, and how kind of ironic that is, with how, again, highlighting the inefficiency of the fascism and how it does cannibalize itself, where they just kind of don't recognize the talent they have under them, and they, they arrest their own like best leaders who are onto the right thing, and the only way like Claire is able to do that hospital mission to kill Luthen is basically because of that inefficiency, where they arrest Daedra and give her a chance to do what has to be done. Really love that flashback stuff. Kind of mirrors some of Andor's backstory too, where it's like these children basically being radicalized from birth, which is a through line all the way to the original movie, which, yeah, it's goofy, insanely goofy at points. But you have to remember it's still about like a farm boy whose auntie and uncle were burnt alive. And he's basically radicalized by that. And that line in the, I think it was in the Gorman arc, something about like truth, when truth dies, like what are you supposed to do? Which is quite a prescient idea that they deal with. And yeah, going back to the building on locations and even enriching parts of, maybe not the prequels because they are just too memey for me, but I do love the way they use Coruscant like as this hub of like politics, and seeing how the poison spreads through it, and that whole like Mon Mothma escape episode is amazing. And there's even like a little pod racing reference in the action and the tension is wonderful. The episode where the Empire's onto a bug that has been left in the gallery. The tension in that episode where Claire goes at that party and there's that whole overlapping stuff with all these different characters we know interacting. It's really well written, really well executed. And Krennic being there and some of his lines also reinforcing kind of the ideas for something like your rebel is my terrorist or something along those lines. And loads of like side swipes as far as where you think things are going to go and the way they do wind up going. Like when it opens on Cyril on the Gorman and you think he's maybe switching sides, because I was wondering in season 1, is this like they're going to take this character? Is he going to somehow be involved with like leaking information because he realizes the extent of what the Empire are doing? But I'm glad they didn't do that, because the kind of double, triple crossing thing that's going on, like laying this trap and ultimately coming to the realization of how bad the Empire is a little bit too late to do anything about it, really. And that last confrontation between him and Daedra is extremely well acted, really well blocked. The way he kind of grabs her by the neck is so like brutal. And I really love the way they bring back this Vel character and Cinta, who have a relationship going on, and they're more hardened than the Gormans, who are kind of rough around the edges, and the plan going horribly wrong because one of them just doesn't listen to, hey, don't bring a gun, and then Cinta winds up being killed, and how sad that is. And her Vel's got a devastating speech in that episode, which is just so well written. Look at me, don't look away from me. It's just heartbreaking stuff. And even little side characters just steal the show now and again, like the hotel worker on Gorman. He's like a memorable side character, or even just little details of in that last episode. There's a Imperial like communications expert who is like, wow, the rebels, like they're crazy good at this stuff. It's ingenious, like some of the stuff they're coming up with. And they're like, hey, temper that down, man. And yeah, in the Gorman massacre, when the K2SO robots are going around throwing innocent bystanders and murdering them, it's like, oh my god, this is vicious. This is quite brutal in a way a lot of Star Wars isn't, where it feels like the rough edges need to be sanded off, where it's like, no, this ain't really fun and games. This is, they are evil. Like, the Empire are evil. And I love the going back to that restraint. Just these concepts being talked about, but never indulged in by the actual media itself. You'd never see the Empire, you're never seeing any of the goofier stuff. It's all like whispers. Just like the Force, in the way the Force is only manifests as like a healer or soothsayer type character who Andor doesn't really trust or believe in. At first anyway, he has a bit more faith by that little head nod he does to that character as he's leaving to go on his mission that starts Rogue One. And it's so weird that the biggest problem I have with this show is just that it is Star Wars, that it is... That baggage is hard to get around, but I don't know. I've been filtering through the good and bad of this franchise for so long. It feels like that it's not too difficult when it is this well made. Yeah, I love how they deal with the Bix stuff, where she is quite traumatized from the events in season 1, where the Empire basically have these machines that can infiltrate your mind and get information out of you, and there's that torture character that they wind up getting revenge on, but she's basically becomes like a drug addict, and then how that fleshes out Luthen, where he visits Bix to try and get something out of her, but then sees that she's been abusing this space drug to help her sleep. But then I guess the implication is that, because he says the longer you take it, the dreams will come back when you stop taking it, like 10 times the Force or whatever. And that in that flashback episode, in that last arc, where you see Luthen, who's some kind of like Imperial officer at the time, and while they're committing some horrible crime against humanity, and he's saying to himself, like, make it stop or whatever. Really dark. I love that it doesn't feel the need to dodge around that, indulges in it fully. But yeah, the fact that obviously Bix isn't in Rogue One, isn't referenced anywhere, so the assumption is, oh, she's going to be killed or something like this. But I'm glad she just decides, I'm going to nope out of this. We don't know she's obviously pregnant at the time and doesn't want to be a part of it, knowing that she's bringing a child into the world. That was obviously part of her decision making, but adding to that bittersweet nature of, we can pick this back up when this is over, type thing, and I'll see you when it's safe. And we know obviously Andor doesn't make it to the end, giving that last shot where she's holding Andor's child, an extra level of sadness that brings a tear to your eye. Also is weirdly inspiring that like the little farming community and his little robot or whatever are like chilling there for now. Like I'm seeing down here that like Ahsoka, the Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, Mandalorian. I've only seen Mandalorian and Ahsoka, and I said Mandalorian's already kind of, I mean that last season was not good, but Ahsoka as well is like, it's so goofy and dumb. And then like, what are they even doing with the Acolyte? I think I watched like half of the first episode and just noped out. I just don't care. And the Skeleton Crew I hear is okay, but also I'm just not that interested. It seems more like aimed for babies, but that's fine. That can exist too, I guess, at the same time. Although I don't think many people have seen it. But I think this is what a lot of people who kind of grew up with this franchise in a similar way to me were looking for, or like imagine the potential of in that gap after the prequels ended, and we'd all kind of come to the conclusion that it was over and we'd never see anything again. But like the theorizing and the lore and what was happening in this gap, like the gap between 3 and 4 is such a good sort of place where the tensions are just so high, and there's so many questions to fill in of like how this was all coming together and all the stuff that was going on in the background. And the way they use Krennic is really good as well. He's only in a handful of scenes, but I think that was good. Yeah, I'm glad a lot of people are, like, apparently the viewership numbers are starting to go up, which often is the case when a show is a bit slower or character-based. Like the payoffs start kind of trickling out in a slower way, or the word of mouth needs a bit of time to spread, even though it's been ages since season 1. But especially after the Gorman stuff, episodes 7 to 9, and everyone talking about it. It is as good as they say. It's just amazing character writing, just quite a marvel. It's weird that this is even a Disney era thing that can be spoken about with so much positivity. I still do have like a soft spot for that the IHE episode. I think that was just like a great action set piece episode. That was, to me, when everything clicked into place and communicated to me like, oh, there's something like really special about this, huh? These guys and gals know what they're doing. And the fact this all kind of, I guess I'll have to give that to Rogue One, is like it did invent, Andor, K2, SO. I think that was the first time we saw Saw Gerrera in a movie, anyway. And there is some kind of cool stuff with how it overlaps with stuff like Jedi Fallen Order and whatnot. Like, I'm pretty sure Saw Gerrera shows up in there. Those are fun games. And the idea that, like, all of this comes from the fact that there was a plot hole from the original movie, like the flaw in the Death Star built into it, and like, oh, well, just start from that question of like, why would that be there? And then this whole 2-season show and then a movie manifesting from that was how the rebellion got to where it was, how this trickle of information and how many people this went through and how many sacrifices were made just to get to the point for Luke like coming in. It fleshes out the world in about as good as a way. And please tell me in the comments if I'm being recency bias here, but about on the same level as a Better Call Saul as far as like character work, fleshing out a world and doing it in a way that doesn't feel fan servicey for the sake of fan service. It's not like a Hobbit trilogy situation. It's not extended beyond what it needs to be. In fact, it's strangely succinct. I'm kind of rambling on now, but I absolutely adored this. Like, I'm still kind of floored how good it is and how much kind of like emotion there is in there. I love that choice that in the very last episode, I'd recommend sticking through the credits. I hate the way that all these streaming services pop up these, hey, watch this now. You're not even done seeing who's made it and crediting what's going on here before you have to watch the new thing. But if you go back onto the credits and just listen to the music and the way it morphs into like the original Star Wars theme, it's like, okay, this is cool, man. You just get it. This is cool. And it makes you appreciate like, oh, there was something to this once upon a time. So fair play. Fair play. The least interesting looking project from that big like splash screen of like, hey, it's all the new Disney Star Wars projects, and look, we're doing the Andor show, we're doing bloody the Acolyte and all of this. And the one that's like, yeah, Andor show? Who cares? No one cares. And then it winds up being the best one because it's just been, I guess it was like less micromanaged, or apparently the positive critic reviews of season 1 helped some of the stuff for season 2 come together and get made, which is like, thank God, because there's so many ways that the Megacorp could have ruined it. But yeah, let me know what you think of this. I think they're both just excellent seasons that build on itself and create this really fleshed out world that's scary, and the villains are scary, and it hops all over the galaxy, but also really fleshes out these locations. Just great stuff. And it's bittersweet that it's over. And I watched Rogue One 2 recently to, I think, watch it again, even with the way the last episode ends. But I know it well enough. I got too many problems with that movie. You can hear some of those problems on the Sardonicast Rogue One episode. If you can hack it. But, yeah, let me know what you think. I'll see you next time, or whatever.